All right.
All right, welcome to the Alternative Football Panel. I will be your host this week, XFL Mike G. And over to my left, that would be this way over here, is our producer and other panelist, Rick 8-Bit. Joining us tonight are Royce Waxenfelter and Demarcus Colors. How's it going, gentlemen?
Great.
Great, great, great. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm excited to talk about such a busy weekend in the UFL. We have the games, obviously, to talk about, stuff that was going on behind the scenes in the stands, and stuff that's coming out of the front office. Rick, if you're ready to kind of run down quickly what we're going to be doing tonight.
And you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you now.
All right,
The
folks.
joys of
gonna have
doing a
great show
live
tonight.
podcast.
We're gonna recap. We're gonna recap last week. We're gonna recap what happened last week, some game action, and then we're gonna predict what's going to be happening this week. It's a spread out week. It's a week. It's a great week because you have a game Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on Tuesday. So it's 4 games over 5 games. You could focus and spread out everything. So make sure you got your Easter candy ready so you can watch your Sunday's game and save it up for Tuesdays. But it's going to be a great show. What we're going to start off with tonight is a thing called Hot Topics. So it's our new way of basically going over a lot of stuff that's been happening. And a lot of stuff happened last week. So first week, there was some, not issues, but stuff as you see, like we're dealing with our podcast. A lot of temperamental things. You had some different elements with the stadiums. You had different stuff happening across the board. But it was a pretty entertaining week. I thought week 1 on Fox, I thought it was their best. And the game was fantastic. But what do you guys feel after week 1? How do you feel?
I'm excited. It was some great games. I mean, bottom line to me, the football was awesome.
Definitely, definitely awesome. And then I thought that the halftime performances had a really, really nice touch. What's his name? Russell Dickerson, I thought was the best in terms of just my taste. But I think DJ Khaled, even though I wasn't necessarily big on his performance, I thought the way it looked on camera was excellent. I mean, with the steam and the different colors and everything, it really made that game look like something special, which is what the UFL needs. So I thought that was great.
Was I liked they actually gave halftime its own time, and there was no commercial breaks. Like Russell did a full set, which was fantastic. And you don't usually see, they're going to play one song. No, they played the whole thing, which I thought was great.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I noticed it, but I just didn't like consciously notice it. Yeah, they played it all the way through, which is something you don't see. Yeah, good point. Who did you, Royce? Who did you like?
I'm actually a fan of him. I have seen him live, and he's even better live in concert. He absolutely. If you have a chance, he's coming to your area. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I think I liked him too. He kind of had that Van Halen guitar thing going on, which I enjoyed. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that last song, the song he went out on, that song.
Did you guys catch any of the other halftime shows, or I only saw Fridays?
The only one I missed was the one in Dallas or Houston. No, Dallas. But I saw the other two. DJ Khaled just did a bunch of other people's songs and kind of DJ'd to it. And then the Ludacris, or not Ludacris, but Nelly was actually, I thought he did a lot of kind of almost, it wasn't lip syncing, but he just kind of talked through the songs that were kind of going over the loudspeakers, and other people were singing. He just kind of seemed to kind of talk with them. So it was entertaining though, and you could tell the people in St. Louis loved it.
That's the one that I didn't see. I was at an Easter event
100%
prior to the Dallas game, so I didn't get a chance to see that game at all.
The cool thing about that is that they were all decked out in Battlehawks gear, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like the halftime shows like that are actually going to get people, like casual people, will start like watching because they're seeing, oh hey, that I like that guy. And then they'll watch a little more.
I think if it'll get people that came to the game to see those halftime shows and then actually enjoyed the football, that's the audience I think they're going to be able to grab, because the football that went along with it is what's going to keep people there. So
Right. Yeah. And then you will have people that will go to the games just because it's a cheap way to see those artists. So I think they're kind of hoping that, I don't know how many artists of that caliber they're going to have throughout the season, but I think they're going to have some kind of entertainment all the way through. And, there are going to be some people who say, I mean, Russell Dickerson for $13, I'm taking it.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely to kind of tack on to that.
Hey, listen, I paid.
To kind of tack on to that, what DeMarcus was saying is how many of these fans are going to come back. I know that the purpose of that is to have this concert, bring them to the venue, get them to watch the football, and hope that a percentage of them comes back.
Right.
What percentage of that is determined, is yet to be determined. It'll be interesting. I don't know that they'll have a lot of retention, which is kind of scary, especially with what's going on in Houston. Right now, we don't have official numbers yet, but it seems that they are severely lagging in Houston. Even with Ludacris, one of the top artists of these artists that were selected. Guys, your thoughts? Can Ludacris save Houston?
I don't know, man. I think that I remember what's his name? Goodness, of course I don't remember his name when the show was on. But the QB for St. Louis now, who was in Houston, Brandon Silvers. Goodness, he was saying on a podcast last season that they really pissed off a lot of the fan base by taking Wade and a lot of the players that people liked away like that, and it's going to be hard to get those people to come back. But I mean, if the team is good, that can cure things. But if they're not good, I don't know if Houston can survive another, sub 500 year. I think if they don't do anything this year, I think might be looking at the Oklahoma City Gamblers or something like that.
Yeesh, that's rough. And considering what that city has been through, and we talked about it in our last show, they were, the Gamblers, the Roughnecks, the Brahmas-ish kind of, back to the Roughnecks, and finally ended up on the Gamblers. So it'll be interesting, but we need to do all we can. I've even started posting, trying to push that aspect. I created a post where I tagged the stadium, so all the followers of that stadium will get it, the Houston Dynamo and the Houston Dash. If nothing else, like you were saying, it's an inexpensive way to see some of these artists that you're going to be able to get a little bit closer to, and you're going to do it at a better bang for your buck.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll get some word of mouth going. People will say, I went to see, Russell Dickerson. I went to see Ludacris. And it was like, well, where? Oh, it was at this UFL game. And so maybe just having that conversation will spill over into more people just learning about these games. Easy.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get ready to move on.
A problem, though, with it being in Houston. If you look back last year, they had an issue, too, with it being Easter, and San Antonio had a hard time. I think if they want, maybe they just shouldn't schedule games for Easter Sunday.
Right.
I think that might be, they're not established enough where Major League Baseball, they could get by having low attendance on Easter Sunday. But UFL, they need the fans in the stands. It might be better, especially if they're exploring with a game on Tuesday, than maybe have a Friday night game, 2 on Saturday, skip Sunday, and then have something on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yep. I've even thought that if they add teams and they have to back up the start of the season, I even thought, like, when you get to March Madness, just start having bye weeks in there. Just have fewer games. Don't try to go up against, Final Four, Elite Eight, things like that. So they're going to have to do some kind of strategizing with that.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to the Rapoli Report. And if you're new to the show, we move on pretty quick. We talk a lot about a lot of different topics, a lot of different subjects, and we'll break down the games and do all that. But we like to move fast, give you a lot of information that you might have missed. With the Rapoli Report, Mike Rapoli had himself an incredible weekend this weekend, starting with St. John's, following the St. John's basketball team up into March Madness. And how far did they get in the tournament there? Is it still going on? I don't even follow it right now.
UConn, baby. It's all about UConn, boys.
So where is St. John's right now? I don't even know where the tournament's at as far as what stage it's at. Does anybody know?
St. John's lost to Duke, and Duke lost to UConn on a buzzer
Okay,
beater.
there we go. There we go. I am 100% UFL right now. I'm barely paying attention to the NFL. I'm barely paying attention to the NBA, even though my Spurs are killing it. But we're going to get folks back on Mike Rapoli and his weekend. So that was the start of his weekend with St. John's. After that, while he was at St. John's, Rick, do you have that graphic?
Oh, I do not have it yet. Sorry.
Okay. So anyway,
I'll put it up.
He tweeted from the game that he was watching the Kings Stallions game on his phone. He followed that up with another tweet. We're still waiting on that. Okay, sorry guys, I'm getting ahead of Rick. I move fast. I'm sorry. That's on me. So, anybody else want to jump in on Mike Rapoli's weekend here?
I was just glad to see him at the games. I think, again, like we talked about last week, his presence of being at the games, and he was at several, I think it makes a difference. I think it shows that he's invested and that he's engaged, and I just love to see it.
Yeah, definitely. So when I was thinking about this originally, I'm like, well, he's at a basketball game. Granted, it's his team. He sponsored it. And, your team makes a once-in-a-lifetime run. You got to be there. But there's always next year. They can make another run next year. How many leagues do you launch at one time? This is a one-time deal. So I can understand why he was there because, I thought about it. I'd kind of do the same thing. And then he followed that up with a visit to the Battle Dome where he was live on the sidelines again. And at least I don't know, somebody made the comment, at least he made it to the Battle Dome and The Rock never did.
Yeah, he's definitely way more engaged than some of the previous owners have been. So, I mean, that's good to see. Like with Jerry Jones, you can say what you want to say about Jerry Jones, but he cares or is trying to tell you that he cares about the product because he's always visible. So I think Rapoli kind of has that same kind of feel for the UFL, that he's kind of like the front man. He's excited about it. He wants you to be excited about it. And I think eventually that will kind of get out there. It's been kind of
definitely.
If you think about it.
All right. And final thoughts on that. We'll spend about another minute on this before we jump into the games. Rick, if you could start pulling up the graphics for the games and get those ready to go here. Final thoughts on the initial kickoff this weekend. I'll give you my thoughts. The Louisville Birmingham game on Friday night was incredible. It was an environment that I wish that I could be at. That's what we need to do. That's where we need to appeal to our fans. You got to make them want to go to that game. So the environment was great. The smaller, condensed crowd was awesome. Any other thoughts on any other games this weekend before we jump into reviewing them?
That Louisville stadium did not look as small as it actually is on television. There's one shot where I think there's a smaller section and then there's a bigger section. When they were headed toward the bigger end zone section, I mean, it looked like a full-size stadium. So, I mean, it looks good, and it was full. Looks absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, a lot of these soccer stadiums, that first section is kind of half of what it would normally be, like an NFL-sized stadium, and then they cantilever the second section right over the top of that. So you're really close. You're right on the action. And I think what DeMarcus was talking about is the wall. I think they have that in DC as well, where it's just basically standing room from the ground all the way up. And it's a bit deceiving on TV, and it looks a bit empty, especially from above. But, yeah, they had a nice crowd. It was close to 14,000 in a 16,000-seat stadium, so very, very good. Yeah. All right, leading us off, talking about Game 1, Birmingham and Louisville, is Royce. Royce, what are your thoughts? Take us away.
It was a fun game. I think everybody kind of expected the Stallions to come in and roll because of their depth, but the Kings said – not so fast. So they went and really kind of had the game in their hands for a little bit. Bean looked pretty good, pretty sharp at first, kind of doing some passing, some running. He's a better passer than I expected. But then when it came down to it, I think the tide turned when Chiava Tazzino kind of got a punch out at the end zone and turned the ball over there. And from then on, it was kind of Brahma's game or Stallion's game. But the Stallions kicker made it interesting by missing 2 extra points and a field goal and almost blew it for him. And it made it a super close game. But I think that his days are probably numbered in Birmingham, especially knowing that there's guys like Matt Coughlin out there that could easily just pick up right and do better, So, but what a fun game. There was guys like Snoop Connor, who I was excited to watch, had a nice touchdown run. McFarland had a few nice runs too. I think that tandem is going to be a nice, fun tandem to watch. And for whatever reason, Birmingham always tends to do that with their running backs. They get 2 super solid running backs that can just kind of play off each other. And then Mickens had the game. He had 9 catches for 103 yards, man. And most of those were on third down, third and long. He was just pushing them down the field right when they were in trouble. So that was fun. It was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to what you were talking about, and it reminded me of something. Watching Anthony McFarland for the Stallions, Corbin for the Storm, and I'm going to miss one out of 2. I know I'm going to miss him, Royce. McFarland, Corbin, and Levitt, I believe. Levitt for St. Louis. Former Brommerbacks having a great weekend this weekend. And of those guys, they're kind of 2 different types of backs. Like McFarland is your overall all-around guy who's going to catch out of the backfield, where Lovett's going to be your thunder, and he's just going to pound you and run you over. So it's interesting to see those guys kind of move around the league.
And then you've also got Jaden Sheridan, who plays for the Kings. So he's another ex-Brahma back that's out there. So Brahmas are kind of all over the place now. But a couple of other guys I did want to call out in that game that I was shocked by, just because I had never seen them really play, but they were their presence was felt. One was Xavier Carlton for the Kings, defensive tackle for them, was pushing through the middle and got a couple nice TFLs for them. And their middle linebacker, Nick Cubits, had 10 tackles. And then for the Stallions, Deontay Johnson, who's a linebacker, had an interception and pass breakup, kind of key interception there too. So that was the late game one I think that Bean shouldn't have thrown. Anyway, it was, or was that the early one? Either way, he picked one off, and it was kind of nice to see. So those are just a few game notes I had.
Yeah, Rick, you kind of cover the Kings for us. Do you have any insight on that you want to add before we move on a little bit?
I was quite excited. I thought they were doing quite well. I think turnovers that was a huge part. I mean, all I could think of is Chris Berman back in the day. Whoops! As soon as that interception bounced off the tight end, coughed it up. Yeah. Fumbling at the goal line. I mean, unfortunately, that was hurt, but considering a first-time coach, a first-time quarterback, they definitely looked a lot more polished than I think a lot of people were expecting. I was high on Louisville. Especially the way the running back committee looked, and I'm still high on them. So I definitely feel like they have some. If they fix a lot of their turnovers and they start holding on to the ball, I got a feeling they're going to make some noise, and they're not going to be the teams. They're definitely going to go far.
Yeah, I definitely.
Go ahead.
I definitely saw some potential with them, and so I'll throw this to you 3 guys, Royce, Zom, who's just joined us, and DeMarcus. How do you think Bean did? We want to look at his first half and his second half. Guys, how do you think Bean did in the first half versus the second half? Royce, take it away.
I thought he looked great in the first half. Like I was saying, his passes, he can throw a deep ball. He can throw a nice, sharp, short, mid-range one. And he can just basically run it too when he needs to and pick up some nice yardage there. So, in fact, he led them in rushing yards. So they didn't have any other output on the ground besides him, really. So it was nice to see him kind of take over when he needed to. It was a little different in the second half once he got behind. I think it was a little bit dangerous for them because he had a couple ill-advised passes there at the end that he shouldn't have thrown.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. And when you're behind, you got to force it. DeMarcus and Zom, who wants to go first?
Well, I'll let the best go last. Let me just say, Cam Dantzler looked wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean, he really jumped out.
Definitely.
If you didn't know anything about Louisville, once you got done with that game, you knew who Cam Dantzler was.
true.
Oh yeah, his name was all over the broadcast. I think I had it 5 times in my notes. Zom, what are your thoughts?
I think you're on mute, Zom.
You're on mute.
I think that he played pretty well up until really the last 5 minutes, because even up until then, like, his stats did fade, but he was better than his stats showed. But man, those last 5 minutes, I think that sack that he took at the end was, if I'm a Kings fan, that's the thing I'm most worried about, because that's the kind of sack that's just, you can't take that kind of sack at that time of the game. I mean, he had about like 5 to 10 seconds to throw that ball away, and he just decided to keep scrambling. That kind of decision making, man, he's got to get that fixed.
Yeah, and as the season goes on, I'm sure all of that will get smoothed out. For a first game, it's difficult to put this together. I mean, it's a new team, a new roster, and you've had a truncated preseason. You're still getting to know personnel guys. And remember the playbook, and to try to do a 2-minute warning or a lot of these long drives with a little bit of time, it's a big ask for the first game.
And 2 new coaches. Don't forget that part.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think, honestly, I think Redmond, in a way, even though he lost, he kind of outcoached AJ because he brought his team up to the level that nobody expected. So,
Right.
And he forced AJ to take that timeout, or his players, rather, forced AJ to take that timeout. Now, that was a good call for AJ. He could have let it run down. They would have got the penalty a little bit closer and a little bit better shot. So it was, while his team was celebrating down the field, he recognized that they were getting a penalty for being offside, so he called that timeout. So I will give AJ some credit. I know that when I was looking at it, I was thinking that the roster was going to be able to overcome AJ's deficiencies, and it kind of seemed like it was the other way around with the Stallions.
Yeah. Let me just say, this is not a good win for Birmingham, and it's not a bad loss for Louisville. I mean, Louisville absolutely could have won this game. And without that interception late, you might be talking about them winning this game. I think Bean just has a little bit of hero ball in him. But without that interception, I mean, we're probably – or if we didn't talk about this. If they went for it on 4th and goal instead of kicking that field goal, they probably win this game. So I'm not – yeah, Birmingham got the win, but I'm not impressed with it. They didn't look good to me.
Yeah, and then you also had that first interception that was on Davidson playing, topping it in the air. And then we already talked about the Zeno fumble. I mean, I agree fully. Louisville, they were the better team that night. Just Birmingham the W's, It's kind of like last year with a certain Birmingham game.
Hey, Birmingham, though, did sign, according to State of the Stallions, Perry and Winfrey today. So they're going to be even better next week.
Yep, definitely. All right, guys, let's wrap that up and go on to DC versus St. Louis. This is a game that a lot of us were anticipating, one of the biggest rivalries in spring football. Royce, take us away.
This was the shocker of the week because unless you live in St. Louis, you picked the Defenders to win. But defense. Defensive coordinator Corey Chamblin, he took the team to a new level that it's never been to in 4 previous Battlehawk seasons. As a team, they had 7 sacks, 2 picks, 5 TFLs, and 2 pass breakups, and really just smothered poor Tayamu and took him out of his game. So, like we've seen before in the previous years, when there's pressure on Tayamu, he tends to make some worse decisions, and there was a lot of pressure. So they didn't get very much in the air like they should have. I mean, Ty Scott had a few nice catches, but boy, the Battlehawks defense just shut him down. It was kind of refreshing to see the Battlehawks actually take over and dominate in a way that I think they're going to probably do all year long with that defense. The Battlehawks actually take over and dominate.
And what I was going to say is they had 7 sacks. Sorry, my TV turned itself off of mute there and kind of freaked me out. So DeMarcus, what are your thoughts on DC, St. Louis?
Yeah, this is the one game that I unfortunately I didn't get a chance to see it live. I had to go back and do some research on it. But my question coming out of that is St. Louis's front this good, or is DC's O-line really just that bad coming out of the gate? Because Ta'amu was hiking the ball and running for his life all throughout the game.
I think I can answer that. I think St. Louis is that good because they've got Jordan Williams now at middle linebacker. And so he can kind of lock up that midsection, allow the defender just to push, or the D line just to focus on the push. And Pitta and Feeney coming off the edge, they're super solid. And they got Jordan Mosley, who came over from the Brahma. He had 7 tackles, a pick, and a PBU. So their defensive backfield, I think, is better too. They're all around good. Sean Fresh and Damone Harris each had 1.5 sacks. So overall, man, they've just got a depth. And I do think it comes down to the defensive coordinator coaching style too, that is going to make a difference for them all year long. So I think it's going to
definitely. And
I will say,
and I'll give you my thoughts on that to wrap it up. But
last year. Hey, so if you look at stats from last year, Ta'amu was sacked 7 times all season. He just got sacked 7 times in one game.
Wow,
that's an incredible stat, Rick.
Think about that. I think it's the offensive line.
Yeah, it is, and I'll come back to this. I'll give you a little bit of wrap up. Zom, if you want to throw your 2 cents in there, and then I'll wrap that up.
All I know is, at least from watching this kickoff, I mean, I agree. I was stunned that DC, after the first quarter, looked the way they did, especially considering that they had all that continuity going for them. When it comes to St. Louis, at least from one game, it looks like they were able to replace Willie Harvey, but they did not look like they could replace Jacob Sailors. That ground game needs some work for that team.
The offensive side of the ball, period, was not as good, and they're going to have to fix that, and especially going into Dallas next week. So I think it's going to be a challenge for them to overcome that. Even with that solid D that they have, they've got to put up points somehow. So A.J. Smith better fix what he's got going on ASAP.
Yeah, I had a couple of Brahma flashback moments this weekend. One was watching the Kings and seeing the numbers and the letters glow, and it kind of reminded me of some of the Brahma's uniforms. But another one was, and tell me if you've heard this before, an A.J. Smith offense with a really good defense. Where does that sound familiar?
Yep, the Brahmas.
So at times with A.J. Smith's offense, and we talked about it, and it was brought up in the broadcast, with the air raid and run and shoot offense, there's not a lot of under center. There's not a lot of, sure, they have the packages for 2 tackles or 1 tight end, because they only carry 1 tight end in St. Louis, but they're not necessarily run blocking guys. They're mostly pass blocking. And as we know, pass blocking takes a minute to gel. So it'll be interesting to see how that line comes together. I do not think Brandon Silvers with that line will be successful. That you're looking at a 3-7 team if that line cannot get it going, despite how good that defense is. That defense will win them games, but the offense needs to get going, and A.J. Smith needs to make some changes to that offense.
Yeah, especially that one time when they got stalled out the goal line. I mean, you're at you're at first and half a yard, and you're running plays out of shotgun. Like, at some point, like, you can't blame the players for not scoring there. That's purely on coaching on AJ, because at that point, I mean, even if you don't have that many plays, the fact that you can't just do a quick little rush up the middle under center, that's kind of indefensible coaching on AJ, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, because those running backs are no slouches. Howard and Latula should be the best running back tandem in the league. They really should be. So if you can't rely on that happening, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that offense, if you get going, it's incredible. It's high powered, it's aggressive, it's high scoring. But if it's not working or you can't block it up, like I said, look at the Brahmas and some of the difficulties we had with some of the same personnel as well. It was Jordan Williams and Delonte Scott that saved us a lot of that season. Who wants to jump in on that before we wrap it up?
Well, I was just gonna say real quick, don't forget they also didn't have Butler this
True.
game. I don't know how big
Yeah.
of an impact that was.
Yeah, definitely. We're starting to see some of these injuries kind of filter through, and we'll see some guys that were cut initially in that last cut come back, and some guys who maybe didn't go to training camp but still wanted that opportunity because they were doing something else. Some of those guys will get a chance, like we had talked about with Winfrey. Anybody else want to jump in on that before we move on?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope. All right, let's move on to third game, Aviators at Storm. I will be the first to admit I underestimated the Orlando Storm, and that's on me. I should have stuck with them considering how many of my former Brahmas are on that team. I just felt like McClendon was going to give them the opportunity, and he kind of did. Zom, what are your thoughts, as soon as you finish drinking that, sorry. What are your thoughts on Columbus, Orlando?
I think the most intriguing part, like you were about to bring up, was the quarterbacks in that one. Because at least to me, like I went and watched both quarterbacks and had this. I didn't feel anything good or really bad about either of them. Because even though Jack Plummer's stats in a vacuum look good, when you looked at the yards after catch, he was putting up some like 2024 AJ McCarron numbers where like 80% of his passing yards were him throwing super small checkdowns that were being taken 30 yards. And so he really didn't have nearly as good a game as the stats showed. I mean, he had the kind of game that almost any quarterback could have, which is throw the ball 2 yards downfield and have your receiver go 20. And then McClendon, he just had an okay game overall. He didn't really do anything super impressive. He didn't really do anything super bad. That was definitely the biggest takeaway for me, is that both quarterbacks just were okay, which for Plummer was better than I expected. For McClendon was a little bit worse than I expected, but I also figured that it was going to take till about week 3 for the Aviators offense to get going. But I will also say I was definitely a bit disappointed with their ground game. I was expecting more out of Columbus's ground game, especially at Toa Taua, and considering how good Jashawn Corbin looked on the other side of the field. But that's pretty much my thoughts on that one.
And
yeah, they were.
I think they started Lovett over Taua, didn't they? And that was kind of a shock to me.
Yeah, I think they ended up playing like all 3 of their running backs, like a few snaps each. It's definitely pretty weird how they were using them. I mean, we all know that was the team that coaching was a bit of a question mark on defense with Captain Munnerlyn. And I don't know how you guys felt, but I did not like that they interviewed Munnerlyn twice
Aggressively
in his first ever game as a DC. I thought that was insane.
He was getting pissed. You could tell. He was like basically ignoring the guy,
And then him just following him with the mic, like, man.
Yeah. I think
that was definitely too much. And he kind of put the jinx on him. It's like, hey, what'd you call? Well, we're all out blitzing. And then the one thing that he couldn't do, he collapsed his edge and he was gone. He's like, you can't do that, Yeah, and then to stick that microphone and that camera right back in his face and do it again, I'm like, you know what? We'll talk about this later. Let me focus on the game here. Rick or DeMarcus, who wants to add to that?
Rick, you want to go? Okay, I'll jump in.
I will say that the part that bugged me the most about this game, I didn't like how they kept on trying to add the end zones. And I know we haven't talked about that, but I hated the end zones where they were temporary in there, because if a player wasn't there, and to me that messes with the flow. And I understand they're trying to keep it at soccer stadiums. They don't have much, but that really honestly took away from this game for me, because there wasn't much energy, and it doesn't have that feeling like you go to an NFL game, your end zone, your college end zone. It's there. It's your home field. Here it's just you're playing on grass. So to me, it needed a little more oomph. I did like that Rapoli got into found his way into the announcer's box for halftime. That honestly I thought was amazing.
Yeah, and about those digital fields, I understand it. I noticed it first during one of the games when there was camera movement, and it took a second for the end zone to recalibrate. And it's something that I'd noticed in the NBA. It's because it's easier to overlay these sponsorship graphics over these playing surfaces as opposed to having to repaint it or restripe it or change it all the time. I do like that they're doing it in these soccer stadiums, because it adds presentation to the TV. It takes a little away from actually being there, but at least on TV, you have some kind of visual representation to see, okay, that's the end zone. One of the things I did not like is the UFL logo. It looked too bright and too clean and kind of out of place. I think if they did a version that kind of looked like it was chalked in, but still digitally impose it, and it kind of fits in there, I think that would have been a better option for them.
Yeah.
Back to the game, guys.
I was just gonna say, I thought that looked cool. Just they have to be consistent with it, because sometimes they put it on the end zone, and sometimes they wouldn't. But as far as the game is concerned, remember I told you guys last week, this was going to be a situation where the more seasoned coach was going to be able to have his team more ready for that first game, and I think we saw that. I think Columbus is a talented team. I mean, they definitely were able to do some things there, but I think that little extra push of having coaches who they've done this before, they've been here before, I think that is what pushed Orlando over. And I think now Terrell Pryor said something kind of interesting when they interviewed him at halftime. He said something about trusting in your coach. And I kind of was like, should we read between the lines with any of that? Did he kind of leak out that there might be a lack of buy-in by some of the players, given that maybe, he and some of the other guys are brand new coaches who've never coached before? So just that would be something I would just kind of keep my eye on as the season goes. Maybe nothing, maybe something.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that, being that he's new, Munnerly's new. You've got to build your reputation, and it doesn't. Before you start playing, your reputation precedes you. But once you're starting on the field and you're coaching and you're actually directing these guys, if they don't respect you, they're not going to listen to you. And it may be a little bit of maybe closeness, and not necessarily closeness in age, but that young vibe. It's a little bit, we're too friendly, we're too nice. And then all of a sudden, when I got to be a hard coach on you, it's like, oh, I thought we were friends. It's a difficult balance, and I think they're going to find that out. But if they don't get that squared away, PDQ, it could see Columbus sinking really fast.
And I don't think that that's the only team you got to watch that with. I think all these teams that have these untested, brand new coaches, if they hit a rough patch, like a 3 or 4 game rough patch, and they don't have a good relationship with the players, I think you made an absolutely fabulous point, Mike, when you talked about the similarity of age. Because I can tell you, as a teacher, some of the teachers that have the hardest time with classroom management are the young ones who are fresh out of college, who are sometimes they look like high school students.
Yeah.
Those teachers have a hard time getting a hold of the classes. So I think that flows over to this too. We'll see. I'm looking at McCarran and Birmingham too.
Oh, definitely. Coaches are teachers. That you're teaching football. That's what it is. Rick or Zom, you want to add any last thoughts before we move on?
1 point off getting this perfect. I called it 23-17 Orlando. If Ted Ginn did what he should have done and went for 2 at the end instead of kicking the PAT, I would have been perfect.
Nice.
And just one more point. I know we're supposed to talk about football. My God, that halftime show was awful. That was one of the halftime shows I've ever seen. And you know what? Anthony Miller was right. I may have thought Marquette Kings back in 24 was better.
Oh
my God.
Yeah, that was brutal when he said
Put
that.
your hands in the air, make some noise.
Yeah, I'll admit the only thing I did during halftime, as far as the game, and it was a halftime entertainment, is I just clocked it to see how long they were going to get, because usually it's a shorter halftime in the UFL than it is, say, in the NFL. And I think Rick mentioned it. They actually gave them the time and the space to perform some songs. But DJ Khaled performed everything. He tried to cram it all in there to get you your money's worth. I didn't really watch it, and I might go back and watch it later. But I was more interested in how long they were going to get to actually perform, because they spent good money to have these performers out here. One note that I did want to make is that the offensive coordinator for Orlando, the play, and I can't remember the play now, he I believe it was a fake quarterback sneak that they ended up taking it up the middle anyway and getting that first down. That was a great call. And also, I know Zom and I, we talked during the game. We chatted a little bit about, do you go for two? Do you go to tie? If you're on the road, you go for the win. And I think there's a little bit of we saw this mentality a few years ago with some of these newer coaches. They think touchdown, extra point, 7 points, as opposed to thinking across the UFL and the XFL is, we can go for two, we can go for three. They kind of forget, oh yeah, we can go for two. Whereas I think I would have gone for two early, and then if I didn't get it, then if I score another touchdown, versus if you go for one and tie it, then you have to score again. So I think on the road, you got to go for it. Go for two, go for three. Kicked extra points are boring and need to be done away with.
They need to be moved back. If they're going to keep them, they got to move them back.
100%.
Oh, no.
At minimum 40
get rid
yards,
of them
I think
altogether.
45 should go.
Yeah. I was going to say there were a couple promising things that I wanted to talk about for the Storm. Their defense was spot on, led by Keyshawn Banks. He was awesome looking. And then Elijah Badger had 4 catches for 127 yards, and that did not even count the 94-yard catch and run that he had for a touchdown that got called back. So he would have had over 200 yards had that one counted, and I thought he was impressive. And Jake Plummer had the playground play of the week with that one little flip that he did. So even though he didn't throw a lot of deep passes, he kind of was a game. He's kind of a gamer, I think. So I know he didn't have a stellar game, but I think he's someone to watch.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I know we're kind of running through these games pretty quickly. It's just because there's so much information. And then every show is going to cover the stats and things of that nature. We want to kind of bring you different angles and different looks at some of these same games to kind of broaden your experience and broaden your environment. But we're going to move on to power rankings. This is the big one. With these teams being so new, it was very difficult that first week to come up with your power rankings. And one thing I want to ask you guys while we get into our power rankings, everybody's kind of got different criteria. I want to hear what your guys' criteria is for these power rankings, and I'll give you mine as an example. I look at it as if you took them out individually and stacked them up, who's better. And I kind of factor in where they were the previous week, not the beginning of the season, but the previous week, to kind of see, are they improving? Are they, falling behind? That's my criteria. So I'm going to look at where they're at now and where they were last week. Anybody want to jump in on that?
Hey, Mike, I was going to say, did we talk about the Gamblers Renegades game at all?
Oh, we missed the Gamblers. We did miss the Gamblers Renegades game.
DeMarcus, you were there, right?
Let me go ahead and kind of talk about that, and you can. So, one of the things I was looking for is I needed to see what was up with Austin Reed. Was that the good pick? And I was blown away. He's an excellent distributor of the ball. He set a UFL record first game out, 376 passing yards. He's got great pocket awareness. He looked way more mobile in the pocket than I remember seeing Luis Perez in the past. He's got really good zip on his ball. And we talked last time about leadership. He's a very relaxed leader. He's joking with the guys, jaw jacking with the defense and things like that. So I think he's gonna be fine. He's gonna get tested next week with St. Louis. But the O-line made some holes for Merriweather, but I don't consider 72 yards rushing in the game impressive. They're gonna have to get that running game going a little better in the future, because Reed threw 40 passes in this game. You're not going to be able to throw it 40 times every single game. That's just not going to happen. And 2.8 yards a rush for an average, that's not going to cut it. But I think Merriweather's capable. He's a big guy. Overall, I think the offense looked pretty good. Neuheisel likes to spread the defense out horizontally as well as vertically. He likes to take advantage of conflicts that he sees in the defense, and you saw that. You saw a lot of throwing out to the flat to the running back, which I used to beg Luis Perez to do last year. We saw a lot of crossing routes that would kind of make the defense have to decide whether or not they're going to play in or go out. So I thought the offense looked. I give it a B+ only because the running game wasn't really. It's not going to cut it if it doesn't improve from there. but I thought the offense looked pretty good. The defensive front was also pretty good. They got 3 sacks. I'd like to see them get some more hurries, maybe some more hits on the QB, even if it's not a sack. Secondary looked pretty good. You had a pick 6 there. I think the weakness, though, is probably special teams. They gave up a TD, and you can't do that. So I had to give them a D. That's probably the only unit that I would give a failing grade. They gave up 2 good kick returns in addition to giving up a kick return. So that's something they're going to have to work on.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk a little bit about Houston, just real quickly, real briefly. They are another team that's going to be in that situation unless they get that line fixed and some consistent quarterback play. Like DeMarcus said, they had a huge play on special teams. Terrence Moreno-Cropper, who was formerly with the Dallas Cowboys, returned a kickoff, a rare kickoff in the UFL for a touchdown, and it was kind of like a side note. It's like, oh, yeah, that happened. You know, great play, though. Anybody else want to add to this?
No, I just think the new Heisel gets Coach of the Week for me. If you don't give it to the Battlehawks defensive coordinator as the coach, then you got to give it to new Heisel because he really showed up to play. I mean, he had his team ready. So I thought he did a great job with his game plan. That
team has juice this year that I have not seen a Renegades team. I've not been a season ticket holder since they've been in Dallas. This guy, he brings just an energy, happiness, and enthusiasm that I think they really, really need.
Yeah.
By the way, the Renegade, they didn't have Day Hunter. So let's see if getting him back kind of helps, add a little bit.
True.
When do they play in Dallas?
Say what?
Either been Arlington or Frisco. No.
So
sorry, I had to do it. Sorry, I had to do it.
So what do you want to talk about the Landover Commanders? Me and Mike go back and forth about calling teams, naming teams after a city that they don't play in. And I playfully point out that the Commanders are not in DC; they're in Landover.
It's residual Brahma Renegade rivalry. It's a Texas thing, just like we both hate Houston, even though I'll defend Houston, talk about Houston, but it's Houston. It's a Texas thing. You guys don't understand that. Anyway, no, it was a tremendous game, but it was almost too good for the Renegades, and we'll talk about that in our preview game, in our preview section that we're going to do later on. Anybody else want to throw in their 2 cents on this game before we move on?
I guess I will before I have to head out. This game was definitely it was a wild one. I mean, seeing Austin Reed break the passing record in his first ever start is definitely a very shocking thing, even if they did pull a Bam Adebayo and
regular season passing record.
Hey, this is true, but it's like NFL. They only care about the regular season one. But it was a bit of a Bam Adebayo. I mean, they made sure he got that record. Having new highs on the sideline, making sure that he broke the record. I thought that was pretty funny. I'm going to be honest. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, there's your statistician or whoever's keeping track of that. Usually, it's like a whisper. It's like, hey, you just need one more, or you just need this. It's not usually broadcast on live TV.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that. Guys, what do you think?
I would have been upset if it wasn't the fact that I think it was literally with 20 minutes left in the game, he was already at 320. Yeah. So at that point, it's like, hey, he got 50 yards in 20 minutes. They really could have pushed that. They could have pushed him to 420 if they really wanted to. So I don't think it was that egregious, but they just made sure that their guy got the record.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it at all. If you don't want us to do it, stop us.
True.
All right, Rick, do you want to add anything, or are we going to move on to our power rankings?
By the way, Snap Decisions podcast says Luda cannot save Houston. Houston can't save Houston after 3 stadiums and 4 seasons. That's rough.
Yeah, Snap Decision is maybe our partner podcast down the road. I issued a challenge to those guys about a pick'em, and we'll get to that later. They actually mentioned us and shouted us out on their show, so we're going to do the same. If you're familiar with Alternative Football Network and some of the things that we've been doing, the Horns Forward podcast and the My Panther Pride podcast, which 2 are the best podcasts covering UFL teams, since their teams were dissolved and they went away, they kind of combined forces, and they've got a new show, Snap Decision, Monday nights. You can check them out on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm always going to shout out other content creators that I enjoy their work. So give them a follow, and we're going to move on to our power rankings. This is from last week. Guys, how much has this changed over the course of one weekend? Thoughts? Any thoughts?
Yeah. The DC one blew me away. DC dropping the way they did I think everybody expected them just to roll, and they've definitely now have to rethink it. So that's my thought initially. Go ahead, Zon.
Yeah, I thought that I didn't move DC down a ton on my own list. I've given him the benefit of the doubt for one game, just thinking it's an anomaly. I will say the funniest thing I've seen a lot of people do is I've seen a lot of people so far do something like put the Kings up to 5, but then also move the Stallions up to like 2 or 3. And I don't really get that, considering the fact that Louisville outplayed them. So if you're going to be one of the people that purely does power rankings based off standings, I don't really get how you could put Birmingham anywhere but 4, because they sucked in that win. They were not great in that win. So that's my 2 thoughts on it. I got to head out, but thank you guys for all this. I'll see you guys next week probably.
See you, Zon.
All right, thank you, Zon. Yeah, and I kind of took inspiration from Zom's last video about these rankings, and that's what inspired the question: is how do each of you guys determine your rankings? If you want to go from left to right, Rick, how do you determine your power rankings?
So I usually start off with wins and, points for, points against, and if it was like a solid win or not. I'm the only person who's seen the power rankings, so I can tell you I don't completely agree with some of them. I feel like some teams should be higher. I was all about Louisville. I feel like they shouldn't have been 8 going in, so I felt good on that. I am shocked that we all had DC at 1, and then we had Orlando at 7. And it's very crazy to see how, once we put everything up later, to see from preseason to week 1, it's almost night and day. I can't believe how everything is looking.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it'll be interesting to compare our week 1 to week 2. Royce, what are your thoughts on, and how do you determine your power rankings?
The good thing is I had both Orlando and Dallas a little higher when I did my initial rankings. So I think I kind of nailed that one, but I didn't nail DC. And I think I had Columbus too high. I probably didn't have Louisville high enough, but I still, honestly, I don't know that Louisville's going to be able to beat some of those other teams outside of Houston. But Houston definitely dropped to number 8. I mean, there's nobody. So here's the way I take power rankings. Who's hot right now? Who, this last game, where are they as far as, are they going to win the next game kind of thing? Are they ready? Are they kind of hitting on all cylinders? And right now, Houston is not. So they're dropped, to me, easy number 8. And then from there, I think, honestly, the Aviators didn't show me a lot, and their coaching was a little suspect. So I think they're going to drop a lot from that number 4 spot. Now, the Battlehawks, if their defense keeps rolling, I think they're going to stay up there, but they got to show me something more on offense too. So, yeah, it's interesting how people look at the power rankings a little bit differently.
DeMarcus.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what they're saying. I mean, I look at points for, points against, things like that. I also give it the eye test. You watch the game with the sound off so that you're not kind of influenced by what people are saying, and you just give it the eye test. And then also I throw in what I think about coach and QB. So, I think if you're good in those particular aspects, then, I kind of will. I'm a little more hesitant to ding you even if you lose. So, for instance, like with DC, you got same coaching staff from last year. You got Tom, you got a lot of your established people. I'm probably not going to ding them for losing a game until it becomes a streak. But I also try to stay off brands. I try not to rank a team high just because it's the so and so, which is what I think a lot of people are doing with the Stallions. It's like it's the Stallions, so of course they've got to be in the top four. But the Stallions, in my opinion, didn't look that good in their game, and without an established coach there, I mean, you have sort of some disorganization among the players, and then you have a new coach trying to manage that. You know, they may not come out of that. That might become a streak. So, but I'm looking at the standings there, and the top half, only the Battlehawks really seem to have lived up to it. And then you look at the bottom half, everybody but Houston played in such a way to where you could make the argument that they might ought to be in the top four.
Yeah.
So I think you really power rankings don't really kind of start to bake until maybe the second or third week.
Yeah. Hey, DeMarcus, did you just out of curiosity, did you put Dallas all the way up to 1 or 2?
No, I think I put Dallas about 4.
Okay.
I try not to get too high on them because they always look good on paper. And like I said, the past few years they've been a 7-3 team disguised as a 3-7 team, and so I'm just not quick to put them up there like that. They got to show me something first. But I think I have them at 4. I think I had Columbus about where they are on there. Orlando, I think I had a little higher than. I think I had Orlando about 5. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and taking inspiration from what Zom's video, and if you haven't followed Zom yet, follow him on YouTube, X, and Facebook. He creates videos every week about the UFL. It's really good UFL content. But he was saying, kind of like DeMarcus was saying, is he kind of waits until there's an established pattern. Just because they lost one, he's not going to drop them all the way down. And that's difficult to do in the UFL because there's only 10 teams. So if you're going to drop 3 or 4 spots in the UFL, that is significant. That could knock you out of the playoffs.
Exactly.
So I'm eagerly anticipating our next set of power rankings. What do we got coming up next here, Rick?
We're gonna, if you want, we could jump ahead up to talking about the games for next week because we're about to hit the 1 hour mark.
Right. So I'll go ahead and address that. We have already gone twice as long as I would have liked to have gone for a single episode. I was going to try to split them up into 2 different 30-minute sections, but we're already over an hour in our first part. For this particular show, we're just going to go ahead and run them together. I'm sorry, I know it's going to run long, and I normally do not want to do a 1-hour show, much less a 2-hour show. But for time's sake, and this is our first real show, we're just going to run them together. We'll do better next week. So, guys, if you're ready to go ahead and jump into our preview section for week 2.
Awesome. What game's first?
Do we want to talk about the main incident that happened during halftime?
You got the video on that?
Yeah.
If you got the video up, throw it up there and let's talk about this because this is going to be an interesting topic here. So for those of you who aren't familiar, if you didn't catch it this weekend, like I said, there was a lot going on this weekend. There was a fan incident at Louisville between the Birmingham Stallions who were walking from the halftime locker room onto the field. There was fluids exchanged, words exchanged, loud, aggressive words. As to whose fault it is, it's debatable. And I want to kind of get your opinions on that as soon as we get that video up.
Well, just to clarify, the fluids he's talking about, that's soda and beer. Let's just.
I did say fluids. I didn't say anything inappropriate. That's, I know we got to clarify that for some of you guys out there. But yes, drinks.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I may be contrarian in this, but as a human being, I don't like that kind of thing. But as a sports fan, I'm sorry, I love it. I think sports is about my team hates your team. We hate your guts. We don't want to see you here. It takes me back to those Dallas Philadelphia rivalries, Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles. But I mean, again, it's not. I would never teach my children to behave in that way. I don't condone it. But I think specifically when it comes to sports, I mean, it's what's gonna kind of. It's like the Nakua slap last year. It gets people talking about the league and the teams that may not have noticed before. So only in that aspect of it am I kind of a fan of it. But if I were a coach, I'd be getting on that guy for sure.
Okay, so Royce or Rick, and I'm going to save mine for last. So Royce or Rick, who wants to take that away?
Go ahead, Rick. No, I'll go.
I didn't hear
think
the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, the whole environment seems to be a little awkward to force opposing players into an environment where there's a bunch of drunk fans. That I think is the main crux of the problem, and hopefully they do something to at least cordon it off a little bit.
Right.
I know, like in Minnesota, they've got the Minnesota team kind of walks through this public area, but they don't have the opposing team do that. So I think that it's kind of set up in poorly, I guess. Just it's a poor setup.
That's true. It can be an accident.
I will say this because it's a soccer stadium. Soccer stadiums tend to have that where it's kind of the culture where the teams come out close to the fans. So I think this is might be an issue that they run into at other stadiums, especially at big rivalries, because soccer, that's how they do it. They come out close to the field and everything. And for them, I believe they had to come out and then go down a flight of stairs to go out to the field. So it's going to be interesting. They might have to figure out a different way into the locker rooms, to be honest with you.
But seeing that from a new fan base is good. Yeah. I mean, they care. They care enough about their team. That's something.
All right, so I'm going to give my thoughts on this because I have kind of two lines of thoughts on this. My initial knee-jerk reaction was a lot like DeMarcus. It's part of the game. But on further thought, and I didn't see exactly how it started, and it's alleged that one player was flipping a drink at somebody, and that drink got onto another player who didn't know where it came from, and that's what kind of started it. And then there's been adults, and I say this, adults that have been, well, they shouldn't, have us drinking and have us, where the visitors are. It's like, you're adults. Yes, you can yell and scream and cheer and support your team, but if you're getting into altercations, if you're making personal attacks like what happened in St. Louis with Nakua, that's the line. We need to, as UFL fans, understand and appreciate this kind of access that we're being granted that NFL fans aren't. If we're going to be this close to players, we need to kind of monitor ourselves. Be loud, tell them they suck, but there's a line. No need to go personal, no need to instigate it and make it worse than what it needs to be. Again, if these public areas are accessible to children, do you want to see that kind of behavior in front of your child? We're trying to grow this sport. We cannot take it for granted. We're not the NFL. We don't have a lot of opportunities to go, yeah, we missed that one, but we'll do better next time. So my thoughts on that is, yes, they could have done something better. They did have a little bit of a partition. They should have had security facing outwards on each side of that to kind of monitor that. I think that's an easy fix. Just add a couple of layers of security on either side and monitor that. But that's on the fans. You need to monitor yourself, But I'm going to get off my pedestal and throw it back to you guys.
I will end with this. The perfect karma, if you call it, he caught the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I guess I didn't pick up on that, but yeah, I didn't know that was that same guy.
Yep.
Oh man. So he just felt extra about that catch. Yeah.
All right, Rick. Let's move on. Try not to keep us here for 2 hours, guys. I'm sorry. I gotta watch the pacing.
We'll start off with Friday's game then.
All right, Friday's game: Defenders at Aviators. Your initial thoughts. Let's go with DeMarcus. What are your initial thoughts for Defenders at Aviators?
I need to see if DC's O-line is really as bad as I'm hoping it is not. I'm a DC fan also, in addition to the Renegades. If they have another game against the Aviators, if Chamu looks uncomfortable, I'm going to be worried.
Yeah.
Royce, what are your
I would
thoughts?
say this. I'll say this, that because you have two teams, Columbus had the last game on Sunday. It's a new coach. Now you have DC with Harris. He's played in the UFL before. I think this is the advantage for Harris to might be able to adjust everything compared to Columbus. Yeah. That's a short week. You have to make all your adjustments. Granted, you're at home, but Hub is in Arlington. So you're telling me they flew from Orlando all the way to Dallas Sunday night, had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, fly out for a Friday night game. I don't think Columbus will have enough time to make their adjustments. But my question is, will DC be disciplined enough? Because honestly, they blew the game for themselves at the end with all the penalties. They were fighting with each other on the defensive side. You can't have that if you're going to win a football game. So have they figured out on their end? Those are going to be your two things. Who can make the adjustments quick enough? That's the main key right there.
I think
definitely.
It's going to be coaching experience, and Harris has it. And he is a ultimate underdog coach. He wants to be the underdog because he'll coach them up, and basically it's that us against them mentality where he's going to say, hey, they want you all to lose. You're going to have to up your game, and so he'll get them motivated. I think he's going to take it.
Yeah, and I think that was part of the problem in St. Louis is that some of that mentality might have added or contributed to overconfidence. That first half, DC was rolling. I think all of us thought DC was going to roll. They were going to, destroy the Battlehawks. After halftime, they didn't make the adjustments, and St. Louis did. I think they'll definitely, like Rick was saying, that staff has been together, so they'll be prepared. Whereas the Columbus staff is still new, still getting their feet wet, and I don't know that they'll be able to make those adjustments.
I also think Columbus defense isn't as good as the Battlehawks defense was going against DC, so I don't think they're going to be able to make that dent.
That's true.
DeMarcus, do you want to add into that before we move on to the next game?
No, I'm good. I think O'Neal is coming back for DC pretty soon. I saw you posted something earlier today. Game or maybe game after. So if he does play, I'd be curious to see how he looks.
Yeah, I think he was one of those guys who's getting over a training camp injury, and that's why he didn't initially make the roster. So now that he's kind of healed up, I think, and Tom Fox pointed out 20% of the players that were cut in that final cut will make it back in some way, shape, or form to the UFL. Right. All right, let's move on to our next game. Kings at Storm, Saturday night on ESPN. Rick, let us know.
Let's go Kings. Man, I was excited for the Kings. I feel optimistic. If they figure out, I feel like Bean could be a totally different level in this league, and I feel like they actually will give the Storm a better fight than the Aviators. And I feel like the Kings have had you think about scheduling. Storm had the last game. Kings had the first game. Kings have more time now to adjust, and maybe, like the replacements, you get that sticky, on your gloves, so you catch that football. I think if the Kings figure out how to not give up the ball, I think they're solid here. I think they pull off the upset in Orlando.
Anybody else see the Kings bouncing back?
I think the Kings definitely have motivation to. I mean, anytime you lose, you're out for redemption. And then So the question with that is that the Kings are going to be out for redemption, but do the Storm maybe pull back a little bit since they did, grind out a good win at home last week? So do they kind of pull back, and does Louisville catch them slipping a little bit?
Yeah, it's always interesting. You never know what's going to happen in the UFL. I'm sorry, Royce, go ahead.
I was going to say I got to go with the Storm because they're at home, and I think Becht is going to have his guys ready. And I do like Redmond better than I think he's one of the best of the pure rookies as far as coaches go. But I don't see him being able to outmatch what Becht has under his belt there, especially with that defense the Storm put up. I think it's going to be such a close game, though, and it could go either way, really. Those are two, I think, up-and-coming teams that were definitely undervalued at the beginning of the season that have showed they've got some gumption, and it could go either way, but I think the home team wins.
Yeah, and I know it's early in the season, but I think this could be a make-or-break game, and it sounds bizarre in week 2, but whoever wins this game is going to have the advantage going into the later part of the season, trying to get that fourth spot. I believe it's going to be one of these two teams fighting out for the 4, 5, and 6 spot like we talked about last week. Anybody else want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the Storm, this is the Storm among the new teams got a chance to play their first 2 games against, kind of, I guess what we might call weaker opponents. Aviators, a new young coach, turning around, playing again the Kings, new team, young coach. So if they can get a win in both of these, that might hold them over when they start facing stiffer competition with more seasoned coaches, and they might end up dropping a game here or there. And if they can get off to a 2-0 start, that could help them out. Whereas Louisville's in the opposite position, where if they can't go 1-1 against one of these newer teams, they may hit a rough patch later on. So.
Yeah, it's with these new rosters. I don't want to call Orlando San Antonio East. I like that some of my former Brahmas are on that team, and I like that Anthony Becht is there, but I just can't get into that orange. I'm sorry. That orange and those dark purple uniforms just don't do it for me.
What was that blue thing on their sleeve? That was just weird. And I think this is the ugly helmet, ugly uniform matchup right here. This is it. They both need help.
And if anybody would know, it'd be Royce, who's done probably hundreds of helmet videos.
I've got dozens. I've got dozens of helmet ranking videos, and these two are the worst in the league, so, in my opinion.
Yeah, that I did. DJ Khaled claims that he was a big fan of them. Do that, whatever you want with that, but nah. Those uniforms don't do it for me.
Yeah.
Ow! 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 Ow!
Uh-oh. Hey, Mike, you
sorry.
okay, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sorry. I was doing something and I forgot to mute my mic. Rick, if you could move us over to the next game, unless anybody wants to add to that.
No, I think we're good with that.
I think we're good. Hopefully you're okay.
Yeah. Let us know if you need to
we have
911.
Sorry, I forgot to mute the mic, guys.
I mean, I'm the closest one. It's going to take me a few hours, but I mean,
I didn't know you guys were listening to me being old.
I think we're going to go
All right, I'm back.
I think will be the worst looking uniform matchup to might be one of the best looking ones on Easter.
Yeah, this highlight of this game initially scheduled for 11 a.m. Central Time on Easter. And as a Brahmas fan and a lot of UFL fans understand, that is a terrible, terrible time to have a football game. A lot more people attending Catholic Mass on Easter Sunday, the sunrise service there. So they moved it to 5 p.m. Central, and it's now on the NFL Network. Guys, your thoughts on Birmingham at Houston?
I'll throw this out there. So I did a little scheduling prediction before the season started. Now, Houston, that Toyota Stadium is going to have 2 soccer matchups before. So that was kind of my prediction that why they bumped it up in time, because they're going to need some time to make adjustments on that field. But you're going to have 2 full soccer matchups running back and forth. Then the Gamblers, if it's a rainy game, it's not going to be good. Let's hope for good weather, because I'm scared to see what that field's going to look like, especially with everything being on soccer fields. I feel like this might be the game that might make people scared about being in all soccer stadiums.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we've got to be good tenants as well to these stadiums. We can't beat up these fields and then expect them to have us back next season. To maintain these fields is anywhere from to replace a field of that nature is going to be $500,000 to $1 million to replace that kind of turf if we tear it up too bad. And there goes the savings that we had moving to a smaller venue. We'll move on. I'll move on to the game here, but let me get DeMarcus's thoughts on Stallions at Gamblers.
Well, normally I would say nothing like a game against Houston to get your team right. But thinking about what Rick was saying about the weather and the condition of the field, that might be the only thing that could kind of help Houston out because it would slow that passing game down some.
I wasn't going to say it, but you put it out there.
Yeah. But
Royce, what are your thoughts, Royce, on Birmingham at Houston?
Boy, I hope for Houston fans' sake that the Gamblers have a little bit of pride and play better than they did last week. I know John Terry Kirkland wants to. I know there's guys out there that are veterans in the league that, like Justin Hall, they're going to want to not lose so badly every week. So I think they're going to show up. But again, I think the Stallions, even though I don't believe they're coached very well, they've got players, man. And defensively, you've got Tazzino. You've got guys that have been there for literally 5 years, like Tillery, and he's coming off the bench. But still, you've got veterans there that I think know how to basically they're born for winning. They've been in a winning environment for their whole UFL / XFL, USFL career. So I don't see them losing in Houston.
No, neither do I. But again, this is a UFL, and you never know. I don't know yet if Deckers is starting. I think he should be. Houston just got off on the wrong foot. They stumbled right out of the gate, fell on their face, and didn't get back up until like the middle of the fourth quarter against the Renegades. So if they get off to a decent start, I think they've got a fighting chance. But I'm going to give it to the Stallions here. I hate to pick against the Gamblers. I really want them to do well and to succeed. But and then you were talking about John J. Kirkland. I believe only had 2 catches all game long on very few targets.
They couldn't get anything going in the air. I mean, they had 227 yards. Deckers had 227 passing. So they put up some, but it was all late game, and it was kind of meaningless. I think when it mattered, they just didn't have anything going. So I hope that they use Deckers because he did look better than Nolan did. Even though I like Nolan going in, I think Deckers proved he's the better QB. But I don't know. I'm curious to see who they start.
Yeah, definitely. It'll definitely be interesting. And I know we're moving right along, guys. We're going to move on to the Battlehawks at Renegades, and DeMarcus is going to lead us off because I really want to hear what DeMarcus has to say in his pick for this game. DeMarcus, go ahead.
This was a tough one for me because, I mean, the Renegades offense really looked good. It didn't look like they were lucking into good plays. I mean, the scheme, the way Neuheisel was getting all different kinds of players involved. I mean, this offense, while it was always able to put up points, this offense looked like it was running like a well-oiled machine. And so I don't want to doubt them. However, we do need to see how Austin Reed performs when he's under some real pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And whether it's because Houston's front is not that good or because his pocket presence is that good, he seemed to be able to always find his way out of trouble with, some exceptions here or there. But if they get after him the way they got to Tom, we're going to learn a lot about what we really have with Austin Reed. If he's able to look way better than Tom, then I think you really have something special because Tom Paynu and some of those other guys, I mean, they really got after Tom. I hope to see the running game do a little better. The Renegades have always been able to have a decent run attack against the Battlehawks. For some reason, those old XFL teams, they've always been able to kind of run against them. So I'm curious about that. I want to see if they're going to be able to right the ship. I don't know if what's his name is going to be back, Daddy Hunter.
Yeah.
Merriweather's a capable back, but I just think that running up the middle, they struggle with that. They can go to the outside. They had a lot of good runs to the outside. They can't get anything going up the middle. And I just don't think that Reed is going to be able to have 40 passes 2 straight weeks and then nobody finally figures something out about how to stop it. So that's what my eye is on.
All right. Before I give my thoughts, did you go yet?
Not yet.
Okay, Royce, take it away.
I was going to say that Reed is going to get tested because the Battlehawks defense is going to attack him and give him everything they've got. But you know that Tyler Vaughns is going to get his miracle catches that he makes look easy. He just is so good that he's going to get past some people. Is he going to be able to do that enough and consistently enough to get them on the board? Probably not nearly the 36 points they had last week, but I think they're going to score. And since it's in Dallas, and I don't trust the Battlehawks offense yet, I actually went with the Renegades in this one, even though I think the Battlehawks defense is the better D. So it's going to be tough. And Reed, it's going to be kind of a is it real kind of game for him. Live or Memorex, what is the deal here? So are you really that good? That he's going to find out this weekend.
Definitely. Rick, do you want to add anything before I throw in my 2 cents here and wrap this up?
No. I think this is the matchup of the week. It's going to be interesting with it being a Tuesday night game, how it turns out. The good part is it's not competing with the Final Four. So it definitely has enough ingredients that it really should get people. If marketing is on its game, and especially Rapoli, I feel like this should actually be a huge game for Tuesday night, and this might be an advantage. I'm thinking Dallas does pull it off. I think St. Louis, St. Louis isn't really known for being too great on the road. And I think Dallas looked really good, shockingly good last week. And I feel like if Reed is on, I feel like it might be a little too dangerous for those Battlehawks.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. It's got heavyweight fight written all over it, even though we're in a young season and these are kind of new rosters. It still has that heavyweight NFC East battle feel to me. What I wanted to drop on this is last week I kind of brought up Luis Perez being the starter, and it kind of turned out and it worked in my favor that Reed was named starter. So it's something that I was kind of thinking about. So this week, my thinking is with St. Louis's defense being as good as it is, either they frustrate or knock out or take Reed out of the game. Not necessarily injury. I'm just saying maybe his inexperience in dealing with that frustrating defense, that would give the edge to the number 2 quarterbacks. And in this case, it would be Perez. So I think Perez as number 2 might see some time against if Reed turns out to be struggling against that mighty St. Louis defense. And on the flip side of that, I do not see enough out of St. Louis's offense right now, in particular their line and their blocking. That'll come with time, but this is still early in the season. So I think Dallas's defense has enough of an advantage over the Renegades' offense. So if you kind of take them out, look at them, stretch them out a little bit, I'm going to give the edge to the Renegades, even though St. Louis is looking dominant and Reed is still kind of an unknown because he's only played 1 game. So if he runs into trouble, if he can't manage it, I think they turn to Perez, and I think he pulls this out. Guys?
Let me also say that, and I'm sorry, I didn't want to step on you, Royce. I didn't know if you were about to say anything.
No, you're good.
Again, I mentioned this earlier. Neuheisel likes looking for conflicts in the defense. He likes creating mismatches. He likes finding pressure points that he can exploit. If they don't have to score 36 points this week. If they can exploit that defense just enough, and if they can, if St. Louis doesn't right the ship offensively, if they have another game like they did last week, that might be enough. You might be looking at something like a 23-17 game or something like that. I submitted a sort of a temporary pick, but to be honest with you, I'm kind of waiting to kind of see about if Danny Hunter gets back, if some players who were out last week are going to be playing, and I think then I'll probably make my official pick. But it's going to be pretty close. But it's going to be, can St. Louis get their offense going, and will Dallas be able to exploit St. Louis's defense?
Yep.
The secondary.
All right. Now, just to throw this on, tag this on there. UFL analysts kind of proposed, what if Luis Perez was traded? Do you think they're confident enough in Reed to trade and to move Perez? DeMarcus, your thoughts?
I think it's too early to talk about. You don't want to jinx it, of course. But I like having that extra brain in the QB room. Perez did not look happy on the sideline. I will tell you that. I was looking for him the whole game because I wanted to see how was he taking the whole not being a starter. And he's always been a kind of serious guy anyway. He's not kind of sitting around joking around. He's always had like sort of a straight face, but he didn't look happy. So if he never gets on the field, I think around week 4 or 5, we can kind of start asking this again. But right now, I think it's a little too soon.
Real quickly, I'm sorry, Rick, thoughts on Perez being traded? Potentially.
I think Houston would be a good spot for him. He's always looked good in black. He was with the Guardians. He was with the Vegas Vipers.
Birmingham Iron.
He was with Arlington when they wore black. I think him and Houston might be a key to a lot of their problems.
Yeah.
I think
be good on Houston.
He would be incredible in Houston. He'd be good in a couple of other spots, but I think it would be foolish this early in the season to move on from him until Reed gets established and there's some other movement. If before you move on from him, you've got to develop a number 3 who will be moved up to your number 2. All right, and we're ready to move on to the next topic. Which is power rankings, and I have not seen these yet.
See what we all thought.
Okay,
I'm excited to look at these and see where we ended up. Now, how we do our power rankings, guys, if you're new to the show, we take Rick, Royce, DeMarcus, myself, and Dom. We each do our own rankings. We put them together. We come up together, average them out, look at them, stack them. And we actually are usually pretty accurate when it comes to these things. So I'm so excited to see these, to see where some of these teams ended up. And it's loading. Here we go. So I'm going to take a second to digest this. Anybody wants to jump in with your initial reaction while I look at this and kind of study it?
Phew. I'm
happy the Kings are moving up.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised to see the Stallions up that high.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
All right. Initially, I think Houston is about where they should be. Columbus is about where they should be.
Yeah.
Louisville is about where they should be. Orlando's about where they should be. I think we nailed this. I think we've got it as perfect as we could possibly get it. Your thoughts? I think Rick was about to say something.
I think somehow we got Mike's bracket instead of everyone else's. But I'm shocked that DC lost, but moved down from only 1 to 4, which to me is a little bit of a shocker. If you're going just based off of wins, that would put them at 5. But a lot of more people are high on it. So it's interesting. With 5, it's percentages, and I'm shocked at Dallas's 1 is okay. I'm okay with, but I agree. I think Birmingham is a little too high. They got lucky, honestly. If if Louisville actually kept hold on to the ball, even, I think Birmingham's your 6.
Yeah, absolutely. Birmingham's way too high. I say I had Birmingham down at, I want to say 4. And I think Dallas, St. Louis, and DC should be in the top 4. We can kind of play around with what order you might want to put them in, but Birmingham shouldn't be any higher than 4, in my opinion.
I say flip 2 and 4, and you got it about right.
Yeah, I could go with that.
So I love this because this is a combination of all of our votes and all of our thoughts. Put together, I really like it. And again, I'm going to keep my eye on 4, 5, and 6, that fight for that last playoff spot. So with the exception, I know Royce was talking about moving down Birmingham a little bit. What do you guys think about our 4, 5, and 6, where they landed?
I think DC should be higher, but I do like the 5 and 6 spot. I think that's about right. Maybe even Orlando could argue that they should be in the top 4 with their win. But again, they've only got one win against a subpar team. So to me, that's right where they belong.
Yeah. I mean, but now, Royce, now that you say that, I mean, if you think about it, was Birmingham's win against a good team. It was against another subpar team. And Orlando's win was better than Birmingham's win. So again, I think I'm okay with them being at 5. But if a person wanted to make the argument that maybe they should sneak in at 4, or maybe Birmingham should be lower, or something like that, I mean, I'd be willing to hear that argument. I got to be open to it. Orlando looked better against Columbus than Birmingham did against Louisville. 100%.
Yeah. I got to see one more week. I got to see how DC does.
Agree.
Does DC bounce back? Do the Stallions turn it up a notch, or does McCarron kind of not get them to where they need to be? And then can St. Louis do something with their offense? Those are the questions I have.
Yeah, and I mentioned it earlier, and not knowing that they were going to end up at 5 and 6. But Orlando and Louisville, that game is going to be important. And it's going to be important early because it gives them the advantage for that 4th spot. Regardless of where any of the other teams finish, you've got to try to beat the teams that you're going to be competing against for these playoff spots. Rick, did you want to add anything to this?
No, I feel confident with these rankings. I think this week will be major to see how everything swings. And what I'll do is I'll put it together so we see preseason week 1 and week 2. So we have an idea of who's trending down, who's trending up, and who's staying about neutral.
Cool.
Yeah, and I want to keep track of this all season long. And you'll see our post. And this is going to be a big post. I know that people are going to definitely have something to say. We now have a Twitter page, and this will definitely be one of our first tweets to come out. So if you're watching on Twitter, you can follow us at Alternative Football Panel, at AltFB Panel. Is that right, Royce?
Yes. Let's see. Boy, I'm going to have to go check it out. It's brand new. We just created it tonight.
We just finished right before we came on the show, but we also have a Facebook page, Alternative Football Panel. That one's easy to find. We're all over Facebook, all over Twitter. We're slowly expanding out to Instagram and YouTube and things of that nature. So definitely keep an eye out for us. DeMarcus, did you want to add any thoughts to this before we move on?
I want to give a shout out. I hope I'm not changing the subject too much. I want to give a shout out to one of the commenters. Geomaniac asks, do you think if Tagovailoa takes over a starting role with the Gamblers, will the QB play improve? He says, I personally hope so, since he was a Maryland Terrapin. I think that's what they're called. Do you guys think that's a possibility? Think he can get in there and do anything?
I think they got to give Deckers a fair chance at it if they're going to keep him in there, or maybe even bring Nolan back if he for some reason they say he didn't get a fair shot. Because to me, I haven't seen enough from Tagovailoa in all 3 different leagues he's been in where he hasn't done anything in those leagues, and I think UFL is a step up from that. So if he can't do it there, why could he do it in the UFL? I'm not sure he's the guy, but I don't know enough to know if, without seeing him on the field in a UFL game. But I don't know that we will, because he's got to get past those other two guys first.
Yeah, he's got a lot of upside, but he doesn't have a lot of consistency from what I've seen of him. Watching a little bit of Maryland, he's like you were talking about earlier. He's played in the indoor games and still really didn't stick for an entire season. He's got apparently the world of potential, and he's got the last name, but I don't know if he'll do well in the UFL, because you've got to be consistent to do well in the UFL.
All right. Bye, DeMarcus. Sounds like DeMarcus has got to go, right?
Yeah, I got to run, guys.
All right, thank you to Marcus. And guys, I know we ran long. This is not the original plan, but we're just going to roll with it. We're almost done. But thank you to Marcus for hanging out with us tonight.
All right, guys. You guys take care.
See you, DeMarcus.
Take it easy, bud.
Cool.
And then there were 3. What are we moving on to next, Rick?
So I trying to remember where I am right now. We have predictions, which I'm going to pop up on the screen now. I think we basically already covered on who we're taking, but we'll throw it up there in case for those who haven't seen them yet or just recently joining. It's interesting because almost everybody, we're waiting to hear from Zoms because he does his live, but we're all picking the same except DeMarcus when picks are submitted. So this is going to be a very easy week.
He tried to hedge his bet, saying it's not an official. If you submit it to me, it's official. I am not going to wait. The only exception to that is Zom, because he gets them to me prior to the game starting, and I put him out at halftime of the Friday night games. So it does come to me, and I don't put it out officially because I want you guys to watch his prediction videos and things of that nature. But he picked St. Louis, so he's going to stick to that, and it's going to be all on him, because if he wins and he pulls that out, he's going to take the lead. Everybody picked the same. I think we were all a little bit gun shy after the first week to pick any upsets. I picked a couple of upsets, and I wasn't really feeling them. I just kind of went with them, but I am 100% on these picks, and I will roll with them. Guys, your thoughts on the picks?
I think everything sums it up perfectly. I mean, we all feel like DC has the better chance to rebound, and feel like Columbus, unfortunately, is shortchanged by the schedule. You flip to the Saturday's matchup. The Storm with the home field advantage with Beck going against Louisville, who couldn't really – they had it going. They just couldn't cross the I's and dot their T's. Or dot their I's and cross their T's, whatever the saying is. But
I got you.
Everyone feels a little more confident in Orlando. We all feel the same. We all feel Houston looks not that great. I was trying to be nice. I think the last game is a toss up for everybody, but I think Dallas just showed us so much that it's hard to see and how St. Louis just pulled it out against DC because of their offense. It was really their defense that led them. I think everyone's on the fence there. So I think everyone's picks all make sense this week.
Yeah.
Now, if there was one potential upset, let me ask you guys this. Where do you see it at?
Louisville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that. Great minds, guys. Great minds. Yeah, I think Louisville has the opportunity and the chance to, but I'm rolling with Orlando. If they let me down this week, I'm going to be very disappointed. But it's going to be with Louisville if they get hot or not. If they're one of those teams like Columbus that if they get hot, they can roll anybody. But it's going to be the consistent play, the little making the plays, catching the ball. That people say the UFL isn't, comparable to the NFL as far as talent, and usually it is. There's not sloppy play. There's not a lot of of things like that. But there was a lot of drop balls. I know it's the first week, but did anybody else notice how many dropped, not just completions, but interceptions, potential pick sixes there were this week?
Yeah,
So
and
for
sadly,
me,
go ahead, Rick.
for me, the training camp is so short. Offenses can't get in rhythm. Defenses know, if you know how to read a quarterback, you're a little more flexible if you know the system. So for the defense, I feel like their adjustments aren't as much as you're having all new players, all new schemes, all new coaches for the offenses. I think that's a little more to overcome. And you saw what coaches have a background where they're able to overcome. Look at Dow with Neuheiser. Look at Beck in Orlando. So you had basically people, coaches with brand new systems, brand new teams, able to put it together. Look at coaches who are new to almost everything. Look again, Columbus looked like it struggled. So I think it comes down to experience and how well your quarterbacks go to adjust. Silvers with that, Silvers with St. Louis. He played with Houston before, so you definitely see a lot of things. If they have a little bit of a background with something, they could go far. But it really comes down to experience. The first 2-3 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And none of us like that truncated preseason, but if you look at it from a financial perspective, and I hate to do it like that, but if you're inviting, how many players did they invite per team? Was it like 90?
What, to start camp?
Yeah.
No, it was, I think it's 65.
65, that's right, 65. Okay. I don't know where I got 90 from. Anyway, so you're paying these guys $800 per week for 4 weeks, multiply 64 or 65 by 8, and that's a lot of money. So if you wanted to do another month of training camp, you got to double that. It's a couple of $1 million, very easily. And then, of course, you've got to have the facilities available. You've got to pay the training staff, the nutritionists, the physio staff, and all those people. So I'd like at least 2 more weeks in the preseason, maybe one of those being a scrimmage that they could televise. But anyway, you guys ready to move on to the next subject?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Oh, and just a reminder there, Snap Decision, again, a new podcast that'll be on the Alternative Football Network. We've kind of got a little pick'em going, so I've already submitted these pick'ems to them, and I'll wait to hear back from Chutem Brahmasita and see what she thinks about the picks. I think they did theirs last night already. I'll have to go back and look.
So we're basically on the part where we're just going to summarize. I know you brought up a couple moments where we had a big name, a big reporter in the spring football community step away, and we have another one coming back. Do you want to handle that?
Oh yeah, big name, somebody who was somebody who I relied on and was kind of somebody I looked up to. Mike Mitchell is stepping away from covering football for personal reasons, and I don't want to guess or speculate or anything like that. We just wish Mike health and that he comes back as soon as possible. Tremendous follow. He's a writer. He's been covering alternative football for a very long time, including the CFL for Sports Illustrated. Guys, your thoughts on Mike Mitchell?
Sad to see him go. He's great. I mean, when I really got back into spring football, he was one of the constants that were out there and just feeding us all really good, almost insider information. So it's tough to see him go. Wish him the best of luck in whatever he's going on to.
I personally
Rick,
geeked out when Matt did a show and he had him on live. They brought up my schedule prediction. And he's like, yeah, Rick Ape it. And I'm like, I literally melted. I'm like, yo, this is a guy from Sports Illustrated calling me out. Like, oh my God, I geeked out. I thought it was the best thing possible. So it's sad to see him go. We wish him well. And hopefully if he ever, comes back, there's always a spot for him on the panel,
Yep.
Speaking of returners, and one of our other panelists is on Fox, has a new show with a very familiar face, the guys that you have all heard of, Matthew Tyler from the Alternative Football Network. They have a new show. I believe it's called Second and Six.
Yep.
I'm probably wrong on that, but it's a new show and it's going to encompass not just spring football, but all of whatever current sporting events are going on. You got MLS soccer, you've got European soccer. I think they're doing MMA and UFC fighting, things of that nature. So we want to wish them well. It's good to have Matthew back in the game. And I like this for him because as a host, he's a great host. You didn't really get to hear his opinion and his takes on fights because he was so good at bringing that information out of his guests. You didn't really get to hear his opinion. So this show is, I think, perfect for him. We get to hear his opinion. We get to have him back in the game. Guys, your thoughts?
Welcome back, Matt. Good to see you back, buddy.
I caught a little of that show and I loved it. It's second and six, so it's two guys, 6 topics, and it's fantastic. It's great with them discussing everything. It's kind of great to see Zom even out of nature, not talking spring football, talking about other sports as well. So I definitely love it. I feel like it definitely has a lot of legs and a lot of love from us. I hope it goes as far as it can, and I'm looking forward to each week's episode.
Yeah,
for sure.
I just already watched one episode. I know more about MMA than I ever knew before. So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
And that kind of brings us to our new subject. Do we have a graphic for this, Rick? I don't know that we created where our new affiliation is. I don't think we created a graphic. A lot of us were contributors for the Alternative Football Network, working with Matthew Tyler and on his multiple shows, one of them being the XFL Insider, which became the UFL Insider, and we were all contributors to that show. That's kind of how we got together and formed this, but we weren't officially a part of the Alternative Football Network until recently. Matthew saw our first show, our test show, and he liked what he saw and he invited us to join us. So after today, we will officially be a member of the Alternative Football Network. So expect to see that branding and see our posts on their social media feeds. Guys, thoughts on being officially a part of the Alternative Football Network again? Because we are already part of the Alternative Football Network.
Yeah, to me, it's same old, because I feel like I've been part of the AFN family for over 2 years now. So I just like being connected to that group.
I'm kind of happy that it was one of the smartest decisions I ever made. I remember Matt putting out the tweet, he wanting to get more people involved when he was going from the XFL Insider to the network. And it was great because not only did I get to chat with him, I got to meet you guys, and I've met people all over from East Coast to West Coast. I've met talked up fans from Columbus to Louisville to even Seattle. So it's just great. We all could get together and talk. Granted, we can have our own separate teams, our own separate opinions, but it's nice to all be part of one family, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the premise behind this show. I enjoyed a lot of the chats that we've had over the years, and I wanted to bring some of those insights and some of those opinions and give you guys a platform. This is not my show. This is our show. We are the panelists. This is the panel. So I really enjoyed the conversations that we've had and the content we've been able to create individually as members for the Alternate Football Network. But now we've got it all put together. We can all get together in one spot. I'm so happy and excited to announce that. I don't even know if we got anything else left in the show. Rick, do we have anything else left in the show to talk about?
Real quick. So I do have the, I guess I'm calling it the AFN throwback moment, but it's not. It's basically just running through some stats. Last week, I made a little error, so I broke everything down so it's a little easier for us all to see. So if you think about Birmingham and Houston, yeah, we all know about the UFL. But if you actually go back to even when they were in the USFL, once it came back, the stats are absolutely incredible. I'm going to put them up so you guys could see. So right now, Birmingham actually leads that series 6-2. Birmingham is 4-0 against Houston in the UFL.
Crazy.
They split in the USFL, but Birmingham completely just knocks them out of the park.
A lot of teams 4-0 against
if we
Houston.
go through the matchups, if we go to the matchup that makes it a little harder to put our fingers on, this gets interesting where Battlehawks won the only matchup in the first XFL. They won the second matchup, and when it came to UFL, they've been neck and neck. So this really shows who's got the advantage. Just makes it even harder because I'm a numbers series kind of guy, and to me, this is going to make it even tougher to decide who wins.
Yeah.
So if Dallas wins, making it 4-3, I think it becomes an official rivalry. If St. Louis wins and makes it 5-2, they just own the Renegades. But I think if Dallas wins, and I'm picking them, I think that becomes a true rivalry. And I think that's going to be the game of the week. Royce, thoughts?
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And I will say it. I think if I almost want to know were these home or away, because that if the home team wins them all, then I almost think it's a little bit like, I don't know. I would be curious to see where these games were the 2 wins and the XFL home wins first. I bet they probably split those, huh? But I don't know. Just a thought.
Well, now Rick's going to dig into that, and he'll have that figured out for us.
You don't have to.
Well,
on
I
my
can tell
account.
you because I do remember this. The first game for in the 2020 season was St. Louis at Dallas.
Oh,
so that was a win for St. Louis, and then their second win was in St. Louis.
Okay.
So
far
that's
they
a great
have
graphic.
the road advantage right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Rick, that's a great graphic. Make sure you post that so we can share it across our social medias. Guys, again, we're going to be creating so much content for you guys, and we're going to be posting it. Make sure you keep an eye out. Follow all of the content creators. Follow the Alternative Football Panel on Twitter and Facebook. Coming soon to Instagram and YouTube. Guys, any final thoughts you want to wrap up?
Along those lines of posting, I'm going to be posting a player of the game after the game is over. I've got custom-made football cards that I'm doing, just digital cards that I'll be throwing up on my channel, on my X, and I'll try to put them on Facebook too, and probably the Alternative Football Panel X site. So be watching for those. Yeah, like Austin Reed was player of the game in that game. I've got a few more I think that I put up last week. Jaden Mickens had a great game for St. Louis. So I just make these digital football cards. So I'll be doing those throughout the season. Keep an eye out for them. They're fun to make and a really cool way to display the player of the game. So I'll be doing that throughout the season. Yeah.
And I love these cards are digital, but didn't somebody download and print them one time?
Yeah, a couple. Well, myself, yes, but another fan did when I put out the New Orleans Breakers from 2020, 2022. He printed them out, and they looked awesome. So it's pretty fun.
So you UFL football fans out there that want to collect cards, these are digital. You can work out printing them and all that later, but these are the digital cards, and Royce puts them out. I personally love them. I like if you could swing back to that Austin Reed, Rick.
Yep.
I love this card, and I love the way it looks, and I wish it was a real thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they all look great and they all look tremendous. And you're gonna see a lot of them in my content as well. But you know that Renegade logo in the back with the black backdrop, I just love that, and I wish that was a real card. I am good for the night, guys. Anybody want to add anything while we wrap this up? Just shy of 2 hours.
Yeah. Just thanks for your patience, everyone.
We appreciate everyone coming in.
Yeah. And the comments that we got, I know we didn't really get to cover them all, but we appreciate anybody commenting on our show. Keep them coming. Keep coming back, and we'll tighten things up as we go. But it's fun to get together and talk UFL football.
Yeah, and I think like we all talked about this week, we have some huge matchups. We have how will the crowd respond on Easter? My question is, how will Rapoli respond if it's a bad attendance on Easter? His tweets are a little bit off the rocker, and I don't know what we're gonna get. It sounds like he's not happy with attendance. And Dallas, to me, most people are posting bad things about Dallas. And Dallas has half their stadium under construction. Right now, the capacity is 11,000. So it's going to be a really interesting week to see how everything goes.
And not only that, one of the factors that people haven't kind of figured out, if you're not from the Metroplex, and I wish DeMarcus was here, it's like a 45-minute drive from Choctaw to Frisco and Toyota Stadium where they're playing now. It's not just like, hey, it's on the other side of town. DFW, it can take you hours to drive from one end to the other. It really can. So, and you're appealing to a new fan base that's in that area, and that's why they wanted to go into that area. Frisco is really booming, but you got to take your fans from Arlington with you. So I think some of them are having kind of issues. It's like, now we got to go all the way up to Frisco, and it's kind of a schlep, you know. They'll eventually build that fan base and attract more fans. I have full faith and confidence in that, but it's going to take some time, and it's going to take us making these posts, creating podcasts to get the word out. Final thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up.
No, it's going to be fun.
If you're celebrating Passover this week, have a good Passover. For those celebrating Easter, have a good Easter.
Yep.
All right. And I'm XFL Mike G with Rick 8-Bit and Royce. We're going to be signing out for the night. If we miss something, we'll get back to it, but join us every Tuesday. Next Tuesday is going to be a little bit different, so stay tuned. We're with the game being broadcast, it's going to kind of overlap what we're doing. We're working out the logistics. We might have something for you, but every Tuesday on YouTube and Twitter, follow these guys and follow the Alternative Football Panel. And every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, and if I'm correct on this, is it 7 p.m. Pacific, Royce?
True.
7 p.m. Pacific. That'll do it for this evening. I'm XFL Mike G. Until we see you again.